I am a huge fan of the Artificer, despite the last video that went up on the channel. I think it's one of the coolest classes conceptually, and it's one that I just like building around. The ability to use items almost as though they are warlock infusions make the class exceptionally customizable. And while I do wish it was just a touch more powerful, it's fun, and that is honestly the most important thing when it comes to playing a D&D character, because power is something your DM or you can mess around with as you build the character. Any good DM should be balancing out things like that with magic items or custom feats, in my opinion. Obviously, everything on this channel is in my opinion. That's how this works. I don't have other people's opinions, that'd be weird. Anyway, following on from the end of my third-party spells videos, I did say I would do the best third-party feats for different classes, and because I love alphabetical order, brings me joy and happiness within my soul, might be the neurodivergency, I thought I would kick off with the Artificer as a result. There's some order to this, so I guess I'll explain my thoughts. There's also a couple of feats I want to talk about as well. So let's hop to it all, shall we? Let's talk the Helliana's rafting feats, because all of them don't work, rules as written. They work if you're using the Helliana's crafting rules. They all specify forging or enchanting rather than crafting in general, which means that they don't work for standard crafting. It's a shame, but it's not the end of the world. However, I believe that Layers of Etheris has 2 feats actually that will function for this, because it does state crafting instead. And while I know all third-party content is theoretically talk to your DM about it, I would chat to your DM about whether or not you're allowed to take a feat which reduces crafting time by 1/3. That being said, if your aim is to craft, your best bet, I believe, will be the Layers of Etheris versions of these styles of feats. It's not a book. I might change my mind on that by the end of the video. Yeah, probably will. It's only $15. So my recommendation is probably those. Alright, you know what, my I know, my built-in journalistic integrity, I guess, demanded I buy the book to show off these feats properly. So Adroit Crafter and Careful Crafter both allow you to halve the time that it takes for you to create an item using the skills and tools you're proficient with, and also means that you can't lose the items with the Careful Crafter one. It is worth noting that this is technically just for the crafting rules within Layers of Etheris, which uses a not dissimilar system to Helliana's, although I believe it is specific unique items for each individual item instead of more generic ones. But given that it just says create an item, that is much easier to apply to standard crafting within D&D, and if you are going the way of a crafting artificer specifically, Adroit Crafter is probably your best bet, as it halves the time it takes you to make an item, which is very good, as it turns out. Careful Crafter is also good because it gives you advantage on all of your ability checks to craft an item. So if that's what you're looking for, these are good. One thing I would note is these are pre-2024, which means they are not half feats. I would definitely make sure you talk to your DM about whether or not you can take a boost to one of your mental stats or physical stats. Is something I would allow. It's certainly something I would allow as a DM, but talk to your DM. So lots of caveats. Loads of caveats, but these are good feats for crafting, which is what artificers do for a lot of people. Anyway, I want to talk about 2 origin feats, both of which I think are really, really good. For the first, which is one I use in a couple of my builds as well, and it's because it allows you to dump decks even if you want a high AC. That's because you can choose from 4 is technically 5 different options. So the altered feat is one from the Crooked Moons, part of the experiment background. All of the Crooked Moon backgrounds allow you to choose your stats as you want, which is lovely because I don't know why it's not like that anyway. Basically, this one allows you to get a swim speed and allow you to breathe in water, or you can gain an unarmed natural weapon, or you can get better night vision. But the one that makes this really, really good, in my opinion, is the natural armor trait, which gives you an AC of 13 plus either your dex or your constitution. If you're looking to play an artificer that has just 2 stats, this allows you to ditch armor, which is cheaper and also means you can spend your infusions on other things, but also ditch dexterity and just go all in on constitution and intelligence, which makes for a far stronger from a statistics sense and just damage and AC at least character. Obviously, this is going to harm your deck saves, and that's the price you pay in this instance. But I'm a huge fan of this background. Generally speaking, big fan of it. The other one that I think is worth considering is the Cult Initiate Origin feat. This lets you learn 2 cantrips from the Warlock spell list, one of which is obviously going to be Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast is a fantastic cantrip. I don't know what else. I don't need to say anything else from that. You also get a spell from the Warlock spell list, which you always have prepared and cast once per short or long rest for free, which is great. And you can replace one of the spells with this every time you level up. One of the spells from this feat every time you level up. So this is, it's Wizard Initiate or Cleric Initiate, right? Magic Initiate, sorry. But for Warlocks, which means you can get Eldritch Blast, which is very good, as it turns out. This isn't going to go great with the Battlesmith, because it gets extra attack, but it doesn't get the cantrip extra attack. But for all of the others, this is a fantastic way to add a big damage boost to your character. Next is Shadowsteel Adept and Shadowsteel Master. If you're going for a curse heavy vibe, this one can be quite good. Shadowsteel is a specific set of rules within Grimhollow. I'm assuming, obviously, if you're doing third-party feats, that you will be allowed to theoretically access this stuff. It not only lets you get Shadowsteel curses, which are fun, it also lets you gain a bonus to your spell and attack rolls while you're holding a Shadowsteel focus, and if your Shadowsteel focus is also a weapon, you also get a damage bonus to your weapon attack rolls as well. So theoretically, this lets you kind of unify your sword or crossbow into a spellcasting and weapon-based boost for all of the things involved, which is great for things like True Strike if you are an artillerist or something along those lines. Shadowsteel Master does that, but slightly more, basically. It lets you deal extra damage when you cast a spell against creatures, which is nice, and it gives you a better boost to your attack roll as well. It's very cool. It's very strong, but it is dependent on Shadowsteel being a thing within the campaign. So now for the last 2, I wanted to go for the ones that really fit. So I tried not to, it would be really easy for me to put like Iron Hero or Focused Critical here, which are both really good feats, but they're good feats for kind of anyone that's attacking, and they boost decks. And generally speaking, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite in a second, but we'll get to that. Generally speaking, you don't want to have to boost your decks with a feat for an Artificer. You want to boost your intelligence. So Lightning Caster is a fantastic one for that, especially if you're playing an Alchemist or any of the other ones that get boosts to their cantrip damage. This allows you to boost your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1 to a maximum of 20, which is always nice. More importantly, if you cast a cantrip with a casting time of an action, let's say Firebolt, and it only targets a single creature, again, Firebolt, you can use a bonus action to target a second creature within the cantrip's range. This lets you pew more, which is obviously good. And if you are playing the Alchemist, for example, where you get to deal extra damage to your fire, poison, and acid spells off the top of my head, then this lets you double up on that bonus. It also makes you feel a bit more aggressive, which can be quite nice if you've got nothing else to do with your bonus action. Also less spell slot dependent as well, which is really good. Along with that, when you get immediate response, which allows you to not expend a spell slot once per long rest when you cast a spell as a reaction, which is basically 1 free casting of shield or absorb elements or something akin to that per long rest, which is pretty good, as it turns out, especially, again, on a class which has limited spell slots. The final one, and probably my favourite one for Artificer, despite the fact that it boosts dex and not a mental stat, is Gunmage Adept gives you proficiency with ranged martial weapons, which means that you can take this on a Battlesmith, even though you can use your intelligence for Battlesmith, you don't have to. And then you get that proficiency, which is great. You also learn the Finger Guns cantrip, which is a fantastic cantrip that lets you transform your hand into a weapon that does 2d6 of damage and gets better range as you level up as well. And then you get an extra spells in your spell list. This is less of an issue or less of a boost if you're using the spell buffs that I half suggested in my last video, but if you're not, this is a great way to get those within the third-party rules without homebrew. And no, I don't think homebrew and third party are the same thing. I think that's a preposterous thing to think. You then get to prepare a number of these spells from the spell list equal to your proficiency bonus, which means that you get more spell choices as well, which is fantastic for Artificers. One of the standouts here is Ballistic Smite, which is a smite but at long range. It does 2d6 and then 1d6 for extra spell slot above it. While obviously you're not going to get quite as much out of this as a Paladin generally will, it's still nice to have. Conjure Cannonball is also a lot of fun. These are all just generally good spells to have on an Artificer, especially if you are playing at range. But even if you're not playing at range, it's nice to be able to have the finger guns cantrip, because I promise it's solid, especially if you've got extra attack. So yes, that's it really. I'm going to do a video at the end of the series of like general good third-party feats to take, but I want to go through the specific ones for each class first, I think. But that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're all doing well and your 2026 is off to a good start. I will have a build of some kind out on Thursday, and I will continue praying for more third-party releases so that I have something new to play with in my brews. Do take care, and I will see you next time. Oh, like and subscribe if you want to. It's up to you. I'm not your boss. Bye!